Now, if you're going to have a lot of content, and Todd, I don't think it's unfair to say you have a lot of content.
I do.
Okay, and so you're going to have to store that someplace. So Todd has all kinds of amazing storage. What I thought might be fun is to start off with some of the ones from the vaults, as it were. So these are the retirees, correct?
Right.
Okay, so what do we got in front of us right here?
Well, to begin with, if these were full of drives, my retired storage would be about 30 terabytes.
All right.
So this first box here is a standalone device. It holds 8 drives. It can hold, I suspect now could probably hold 3 terabyte drives, but when I had this spooled up, I had 1.5 terabyte drives filling all 8 bays.
Okay.
It has an external, the eSATA ports here for running to a card. So I had a card embedded in this machine here, and this gave me external storage.
I've never seen an eSATA port that looks quite like that. That's a little bit different than what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, it's not the standard eSATA port that you might see for a regular drive where you might put a drive into a bay. This is for long run. I have some 10-foot cables that come with this, and it's a slightly different variation of that flavor.
What's the length on eSATA? Don't worry, I don't know either.
I don't either. So this device also has hot swappable bays, and these bays provide for RPM speed, temperature, so you can always be checking the health of your RAID at any one point in time. And it has built-in logic cards, so there's a web-based GUI for this that helps you manage and set up the RAID with this.
And you had the ability through this GUI, you could do RAID 5, RAID 6?
RAID 6, yes.
RAID 10?
I think so, actually on the card that came with this.
0 plus 1 or 1 0? Okay.
This was the old reliable workhorse. So this was my old Windows Media Server, dual quad-core Xeons.
Nice.
This is an Adaptec RAID card that fed an 8-drive bay here in front. And this still has drives populated in it. These are some Hitachi Death Star 1 terabyte drives. This was the most foolproof RAID I've ever used in any machine that I've had. 4 gigabytes of RAM. A small hard drive just to run the operating system, 3 redundant power supplies in this. This was not a USB 2, and it had 1 by 16 PCI Express slot in it, but the other slots were mostly PCI and PCI-X for the cards. A lot of RAID cards at the time were PCI-X cards, and they hadn't really started to come out.
Yeah, I haven't seen PCI-X for a while. That's pretty cool.
But I built this from scratch, bought all the parts, bought the case, bought the board, and put it together. I like to build these machines.
I love building machines too. It's just the cable management alone. I'll go crazy with wire twist ties and everything, especially when you've got a lot of density like that. It can be a big challenge.
Yeah, the other thing about this machine is that around the same time, this is when you started to see eSATA ports come into these devices, whereas before they were ATAPI. For CD-ROMs, but this has a Blu-ray HD DVD drive in it to be able to watch, because I think I probably own the biggest collection of HD DVDs of anybody in the US. So this is the old school stuff, and then we got some new stuff in here.
Okay, yeah. So this is the part I'm really looking forward to is, you're not going to believe what replaced this stuff. So come on.
So let's come in here and take a look at the next generation.
Back in the fun place.
Right. So I have them down here at the bottom, and what I have is 2 variations of iSCSI storage. So this is a Sans Digital brand, 8-drive bay, all hot swappable. And this is another brand. Now interestingly, these are sold by 2 different companies, but they use the same primary chipset and GUI interface to manage these, just slightly different versions of each one. These have dual gigabit Ethernet ports on the back of each one that allow you to have a lot of connectivity into the devices. Now the one downside of these devices is if you want to share them with other devices that are not iSCSI capable, you need to then share them in Windows or in a Mac machine, share the drive to another, like you would with Windows file sharing, because not all devices can connect to these. So this Boxy box, which is we'll talk about in another segment, is a media streaming device, but does not have independent capability to attach to an iSCSI storage device. So there is a downside to that. But since we use these primarily off of the Windows Media servers that we have, it works out pretty well.
Okay, so these are mainly coming off the Windows Media server. So how do these connect to the media server? So physically,
there's an iSCSI initiator software in Windows, and it's been there since Windows XP.
It's in every control panel.
And there's also a company that builds an iSCSI initiator software for Mac. So what you do is you install that piece of software, you discover these drives by the IP that exists for them, and then you set it up as a persistent connection. And then the device can get it as though it was a standard drive.
Yeah, it's really, iSCSI is IP SCSI, or SCSI over IP in essence, right?
But the advantage of it is you can plug it into a network and have instant storage capability, and it also allows for a lot of simultaneous connections.
Well, what I've seen for certain agencies and organizations that need big storage is they would use iSCSI for SAN, which is on the Network Plus, by the way, and for diskless workstations and things like that, where they could literally boot off an array like that.
Right, and the interesting thing about this is if you wanted to plug this directly into a computer, you could physically connect this through putting in another Ethernet card in a machine. And I did have these plugged in for a while that way. So I put in a dual port Ethernet card into my media server and then had one of the ports on each of these running directly to the device. And I didn't notice, there wasn't any noticeable improvement in the speed or performance of it, so I put them back on the network to share.
So what RAID level you're running?
These are running at RAID 5.
Okay. And each RAID 5 here, RAID 5 here?
RAID 5 here, RAID 5 here, both filled with 2 terabyte drives in each one.
They all look hot swappable.
Yep. Pop one out.
So brave. Yeah, now you're making the music. I always, so do you get an email if you get a bad hard drive?
I don't have it set up to do that, but I did disable the fan warning in this one because the fan works, but the warning itself was not going off. So.
Now, do you have to press a button to make that sound go off, or it'll?
No, it'll fix itself.
As soon as it figures it out?
Yeah, as soon as it figures it out, it'll be fine.
Total storage right here, Todd?
About 30 terabytes.
Okay. Somehow I got a feeling there's a little bit more storage laying around here.
Yes, there is. So another device that's recently on the market is a product from a company called Drobo. And they have a proprietary RAID system that works very much like these. The newest generation of this is an iSCSI device. It plugs into the network. But this version that I have here will do USB 2, will do FireWire, and then those are the two connectivity. So I have this array. It's filled with 2 terabyte drives, and they're connected to this Mac Pro tower down here. And so this one allows you to get a little bit more storage out of that drive array, so you don't lose quite as much as you would with a standard RAID 5.
It really doesn't have like a drive, it's not a RAID 5, or it's just proprietary?
It's proprietary RAID 5.
Okay.
But
can you lose more than one drive and keep going?
With this device, you actually can.
All right.
So it's got this really neat magnetic faceplate.
So what's the big motivation then to go proprietary?
Just to give this a try.
Okay, I call that CIC, because it's cool.
Right, and it had a neat rack mount kit, and I could buy it on Amazon, so good product.
All right, now Todd, I got a feeling you probably own some optical media, maybe you got a DVD or two laying around?
Yeah, we got a couple different platforms. Let's take a look at this one real quick here. This is a 400 disc Blu-ray changer made by Sony, and I probably have this about halfway filled up. I have complete seasons of the original Star Trek. I have all the seasons of Lost, Mad Men, a few other shows. So when you accumulate series in Blu-ray, you pile them up pretty fast.
I'm getting a little choked up here because you actually mentioned that you have the original Star Trek, right?
Yeah, so that's my favorite.
Of course. See? Holy smoke, now what do we got?
So what we have here is 3 Sony DVD changers that are all controlled by this Escient control system. So each of those DVD changers holds 400 discs. They're all completely filled because I have complete Twilight Zone, complete Seinfeld, and a ton of different movies in there.
Firefly?
I don't know if I have Firefly. So this box...
He was almost perfect.
This box controls each of these via RS-232.
So explain to me controls a little bit. I'm confused here.
This box here knows what these changers are. It knows the model of them, it knows that they're Sony's, and it knows how to control them. So embedded in the software here is all the things that press play, rewind, find the disc that you want. And what this software does is it catalogs all the discs that are in there. It goes out and finds the metadata for those discs and brings them in and presents a nice user interface. You could just as easily load these up with music and do the same thing. So this device, we've had this for several years, but it's a pretty good interface for that, and it's controlled by IR or you can control it through IP or RS-232.
And now so how are you talking to this box right now?
This box is talking to through the IR, and then component video out from this box goes into our distribution system, and you can watch movies from that box on any TV in the house.
Cool. All right, well, we've got a good feel for the infrastructure now. We've got a good feel of all the interconnectivity from the ISP. I think it's time to get the big payoff. Let's sit down, and Todd, I want you to pick the most comfortable place in the house, and let's see why you go through all this hassle of interconnectivity and storage and infrastructure to enjoy some good TV.
Right.
Let's go.